Her Purple Past, Part 9. 3 days to the meeting, whence purchase the kit to be fixed to the sheeting, so we may then split. Once over the walls, I'll let the light dwindle, holding half the jewels, so there be no swindle. Back over those walls, having dressed as a tourist, keeping 2 of the jewels, as in pearls of the purest, so the deal for the mules be double the surest. I'll climb down the rope, you hide in the porch, I'll knock on the oak whilst holding a torch. I'm heading to Tours, and lost on my way. Open these doors, I've pennies to pay. They'll not be alarmed, so I will gain entry, and these 2 firearms will hold up both sentries. Them tied we'll race fast to the next rendezvous, for I will on pass for Arce's pearls too. A romance, a mission, Amelia a flame, and she'd lost inhibition in frisking the dame. She'd lost all her shyness, as was surely coy, lost life's form of droyness, now soaking with joy. Was musing she surplus, and told such always, not now she had purpose, not now she ablaze. Julie d'Aubigny. Ec donk, I was down and bleeding profusely, not a sound from the crowd, and the actors hung loosely. No one knew what to do as my blood started pooling. Moreau seemed to know, he thought I was fooling. Then the curtains were drawn, you'd have heard a pin drop. Thevenard in a yawn, you'd best up and mop. He carried me to my room, for my bosom was seeping, then went got a broom and told me to get sweeping. Lying prone on the slab with fussing physicians, was nae pain of the stab, but gifting munitions. I'd given him ammo, and Thevenard's glee saw him strumming his banjo whilst waiting for me. Kept urine extracting whilst tits were attended, I tried not reacting until I was mended. Gabrielle Vincent Thevenard. She did feel a prick, but thou Nat has passed, yet that lunatic feels more of an arse. My voice was fine-tuned for des douches umphale. Him squeezing my wound turned sweetness to snarles. So when he strode clear to sing on his own, I went bit the ear of the big baritone. He carried on singing, notwithstanding the stud, the ragged flesh stinging as streaming with blood. It was streaming with claret as audience cheered. It coloured it carrot, smeared in his blonde beard. Fanchon had distance, the reason my madness, irrational mists and blooming in badness. I flipped extra fiery with Fanchon's denial, frequenting court diaries when I went on trial. I got even fiercer with Fanchon's rejection, fortuitously those years were royal protection. Threatened Thevenard, my friend, to a duel. He couldn't sing, couldn't spar, he could just ridicule. Now thankful he cowered behind his locked door, as he'd been devoured. He'd called me a whore. I battered my landlord, the tenants had told, baguettes as cardboard, the muttons as old, and spared with his cook with a gigantic key, but I alone took to the justice of peace. I bested a baron, a pervert, a pain, pistols he'd fashioned for shot by the sane. I'd just aimed at his arm because of rude blisters, as in loudmouth tirades on the Desmantis sisters. I clobbered 2 punters whence found 'em backstage, who tried to lob onions in an indignant rage. The raid justifies, as it had been induced by 2 pregnant brides dumlessly seduced. I'd caught in the act and smashed the eye socket of an opiate-whacked gypsy pickpocket. 1 hand in my pocket, a hand on my tit, that's why like a rocket I flew in a fit. And duelling with creeps each Saturday morning, that even Philippe issued a warning. Fondlers, curs, wankers who'd lied, though none called me whore, so no one had died. For Fanchon Moreau I shot off the rails, l'opera those showed, bounteous sails. A deadly desire which almost enveloped, yet that love fueled a fire as my ire developed. Holding her flame was a tightening bodice, but by it became a dazzling goddess. Albeit I crazed as lust sent me manic, the assemblage raved, her voice is just magic. I was the magician, I was glorified, but my injurious mission would be close to suicide. I sang to the king at Versailles at the stable, and those heard me sing spoke siffit from fable. Looking back, I short-sighted about those trivial things, that love unrequited had made me sprout wings. Those wings I oft soared to greater heights, if though with my sword were still fortnightly fights. The Marquis de Mangy wrote this in his journal, words to the effect, oh, her sounds are eternal. Chlorinde in Tancred, a Saracen Moor, for my bestious contralto the royal composed for. For me, Campo wrote it, for it stuck him a chord, the Muslim princess in dies by the sword. My Medi in Medus sold so many tickets, 'twas a box office boost with praise from the critics. I relished the fame, yet was crushed and was stewing. Philippe formed an aim, get me out again wooing. I'm hosting a ball, attend as a woman, I think you may fall for Frederic of Bouillon. A prince who's a dish, who likes it with both, a somewhat la dish, I see twixt in troth. A fresh dishy prince, mayhap mindful one now, I had a quick rinse, then donned my best gown. I went to the dance as I was intrigued, a romance perchance, as I Fanchon fatigued. And then he appeared, like marble fine chiselled, and the crowd seemed to clear as the atmosphere sizzled. I stood there awestruck, for his beauty transcended. Philippe had a fuck, so he came recommended. I stood in a trance, could barely inhale. Then he asked me to dance, and my speech seemed to fail. 'Twas all such a blur, that delightful duet, placed next to Monsieur in the court minuet. I felt lighter than air, kind of like a balloon, as my heart beat a blare to the German bassoon. My heart was in tune to oboes in the trio, with his honeymoon massaging my ego. Just barely aware of stairs in the room, couldn't see, couldn't care, could have danced on the moon. Didn't notice the time, didn't see any clock, I danced as the prime, Monsieur, the best frock. Bestowing kind smiles, Philippe was my friend. After turbulent trials, I at last on the mend. Bouillon the mender, though near broke the fooch, and that breathtaking bender of passion and hooch. We bathed in the limelight, for we were hot news, getting soaked every night in sex and in booze. We stayed at the Alberts and stayed for a week. Each night of our stay there we'd dance cheek to cheek. Did dancing and loved the Albert reserved, though my trumpet was buzzing, my friend just observed. Spent time in the tavern, all day was the norm, with grog by the galleon, if Thevenard on form. And on form Thevenard was an act to behold, but I felt a bit miffed with my boyfriend Cornhold. And at Monsieur's mansion we'd dine, then played chess, thence more interaction, partook to excess. Partook, yet bewildered by Philippe's fetish show, we'd walk like we injured when time was to go. The king took us hunting, but as for that boar, were scared off by our grunting from that forest floor. And banquets times 4, we were the king's guests. I enthralled the whole floor when told them my quests. We the Paris couple, peacocks on parade, till punctured my bubble whence I was betrayed. My prince got so distant, no shows he'd attend, and markedly different when he moved to amend. This one was decisive, I'd pay for his chit, was well worth the price of to see my love lit. My first gala concert, among the assembly, I watched him depart, leaving balcony empty. I sang as I choked in shuddersome feeling, for he'd skulked out in his cloak like a thief in the evening. I completed my piece to his crestfallen syndrome, then cantered due east to his ancestral mansion. I veered the steed eastern, seek the cheater's chateau, to find I'd be beaten by Fanchon Moreau. L'amour est douleur, and pain without end, but what even fouler, Fanchon was my friend. Their damned dialogue, attempts to talk reason, my friend morphed a frog and was croaking with treason. Both of them toads, ran my rattled perception, burping desperate oaths that dripped with deception. I felt as if flayed, full of hurt and of hate, now that I'd been betrayed by my man and my mate. I spat on Francois, which got the cunt crying, then bid au revoir to the pollywogs lying. I kicked Frederic's crotch, for I went with full force, thumped 2 city watched who grabbed at my horse, and collapsed in my chambers to cry a cloud burst, then hexed those 2 traitors by to be scrofula cursed.